Om Asatoma Sadgamaya. Yes. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. This appears to be already known to many of you. So translated, this would be thus: Asata is from untruth. Ma is me. Sat Gamaya, take me, lead me towards Sat or truth. So from untruth, lead me towards truth. Mrityorma Amritangamaya, from death, lead me towards life. Tamasah ma Jyotirgamaya. Tamasa is darkness. Jyoti is light. Just as you entered this room, as we entered the room, we first switch on the lights, right? So let darkness go away and light come in. So this is a Vedic prayer that we pray to the Lord. Let symbolically light come to our lives. So I am honored that Dhyana Yogananda has given a liberal introduction for me. And I must say that I have been touring quite a number of places with Mr. Champak Shadhu of Houston. And this is probably the most compact audience that I have seen all across the Vedanta centers, right? Well organized and well seated, quite on time, right? So my topic, the monastic traditions, I would make it a little bigger so that I am reachable to all of you. So the Ramakrishna Monastery, or the Ramakrishna tradition, if I could call it, was started by Swami Vivekananda on 1st May 1897, when he set up or founded the Ramakrishna Mission Association in Calcutta. He had his brother disciples, all of them inspired by the life of his guru, Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna had passed away in 1886, right? And the monastic order or the association was being set up 11 years later, 1897. 1st May we had just crossed over 1st May, right? So in addition to be the International Labour Day, Ramakrishna Mission Foundation Day also is observed in many parts of the world now. So this is a landmark day. Why? Because in a sense, this reinvigorated the monastic traditions or the religious traditions in India. Earlier, religious traditions in India were meant to be separate from the social life. To put it in other words, monks and brahmacharis were supposed to stay away from the society. And they were supposed to do their penances, austerities, seeking liberation in life. So here was Vivekananda writing incessant letters from America to his brother disciples after that historic Parliament of Religions in Chicago. When he compared this land of America with India, he felt again and again that religion needs to be invigorated. Before that, he had traversed the length and breadth of the country, India. It was then under British rule. He felt again and again that Britishers were not alone to be blamed. It is the people of India that must come up and go back to their roots, discover their heritage. Earlier, the monks were supposed to be dependent on the society at large. But here he was calling upon them to serve the society. So his letters came like bombs there to the brother disciples. So I could read one or two because that is what set the monastic tradition, you could say. So I'll try to give an English translation of that because the original letters were written with a combination of Bengali and English, right? Because his brother disciples were mostly Bengali speaking persons. The letters were so charged that many of them were somewhat undone. Why? Because earlier they had understood, they had been inspired by the life of Sri Ramakrishna, who had done deep sadhana in his life, right? Of course, he had said, I'll quote in Bengali, Shibo Gane Jibo Sheba. Jiva is individuals, right? Shiva is the Almighty. So serve individuals with the idea that verily they are Shiva. This Sri Ramakrishna had uttered. And in a sense, this was his formula that he passed over to his foremost disciple Vivekananda. And some of the incidents of Sri Ramakrishna's life also gave them the cue about how to serve others. There were two special incidents. One happened in a place known as Deoghar, when he almost sat on a strike, about to go on pilgrimage with his zamindar helper, Mathura Mohan. They were due to go to Varanasi. And on the way, they went to a village near Deoghar. Deoghar is known for a Shiva temple. And there, when he saw the Santals, the people, the local tribal people, undernourished, unfed, he requested Mathura Mohan that they should get 2 square meals a day and clothings. Mathura Mohan, the zamindar, naturally has to take care of his economics, right? Maharaj had said just a little earlier, we must be careful. So Mathura Mohan said, well, how could we do this? We are on a pilgrimage. We require the money. So Sri Ramakrishna then said, well, then I won't go. He went there and sat along with those people and said, unless you feed them properly, I am not going. So Mathura Mohan, almost embarrassed, he had to send his emissaries back to Kolkata all the way, right? Because that was a 2 days journey in those days. Because train tracks had not been set up then. They bring all the materials, distribute them among those local people, and then again start for their journey. This was one example. Another incident was, it happened near Calcutta in a place known as Rana Ghat. There, by the Churni river, the river's name was Churni, he had a similar experience. There also, when he went and saw the plight of the poor people, he requested Mathura Mohan to serve them. So these were somewhat stray incidents in Ramakrishna's life. His life was more known for his deep sadhana. In fact, these sadhanas are somewhat like the pillars of the monastic life, right? Just as when you make a huge apartment, first you construct the pillars. You put them deep below, so that after that you can have 1 story, 2 story, 3 story, 4 story. The deeper the pillars, the higher the building can be, right? So first of all, in a monastic tradition or in any religious tradition, you require the foundations to be stronger. This foundation was built by Ramakrishna, by his sadhana, at the end of which he had declared, Joto Moth Toto Poth in Bengali. It means, moth means opinions. Poth means paths. So as many opinions or as many established religious paths, so are the paths to God. So all these opinions or different forms of religions finally converge to the same Almighty. That was the message, right? So, well, was it an absolutely new message? No, it wasn't. In fact, such words have been declared in the scriptures earlier as well. Just to quote in Sanskrit, this you would find in many places, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. Ekam Sat, Sat means which is ever present. That ever present identity is one, ekam. Vipra means the scholars. Bahudha, they declare it diversely. Ekam Sat, that is one. But scholars, according to their predilections, analyze him or declare him to be diverse, right? Probably one religion originated in Israel. So according to the circumstances and the customs there comes a new religion, say Christianity. There's another religion which originates in the dry deserts of Arabia. So you have Islam. Another religion is practiced in the Ganges Delta, fertile lands, and replete with vegetations. Then you have another kind of religion, which is now termed as Hinduism. So all the religions basically have their roots in particular geographical circumstances and in particular languages as well. Of course, in course of time, their scriptures are translated into the other languages. But if you want to go back to the roots of those religions, you have to understand the customs of those particular places. Then you can detect the real liturgy or the ceremonials of that religion, right? So Sri Ramakrishna says, echoing the Gita, that Bhagavad Gita also says a similar line. It says, I'll make a free translation. Sri Krishna says that there are diverse paths, but all of them basically are the paths of God. Mama varthma anuvartante. Anu means following. Anu means following. It is my path that people are following. Of course, often they don't know. They don't know that the religion that they are following is the same as the religion followed by people in another country. Without knowing probably, without knowing the inherent philosophy, they sometimes quarrel with each other. But these knowers of God, like Ramakrishna, they declare that these paths finally converge to the same goal. In fact, Ramakrishna gives that wonderful example. He says, you see, it's the same H2O, that's the water, right? In English, you call it water. In Urdu, you call it pani. In Sanskrit, you call it jala, right? But the basic thing is quite the same. Only in different languages, according to your understanding, the terminology is different. That doesn't make the intrinsic quality of H2O different. Similarly with God, according to your perception, according to the color of your spectacle, whether you're wearing it a black one, or a red one, or a yellow one, you probably perceive it differently, right? But the thing doesn't change. So who is qualified to declare this? Only he who knows who God is. If he realizes this in his heart of heart, then only his words carry weight. Otherwise, mere bookish learning, it wouldn't do. In spite of so much scriptures in Hinduism, in Christianity, in Islam, in Buddhism, in Jainism, have the wars stopped over religion? Still not. Even today you see wars going on in Asia. Israel versus Hamas. You see it going on in Africa between two Muslim sects even, right? In Ethiopia, in Somalia. Even the wars during the Crusades had the intrinsic cause of religion. Because the two sides were basically the Christians and the Muslims. Not one. How many crusade wars were there? Three crusade wars were there. All of them were fought for their authority or for their jurisdiction over Jerusalem. So in all of them, even in the Second World War, if you can read between the lines, this religious element was there. Because Hitler probably had an antagonism towards the Jew, as we all know. So even there, this religious misunderstanding carried weight. It often takes a very ugly turn. So this central message that all paths lead to God is very essential even today, as it was during Sri Ramakrishna's day. It is not that often we think, well, these are archaic messages, relevant 150 years earlier. These are only philosophical details that we need not understand. We need to do more of karma yoga, right? Maharaj was telling us that you have occasional karma yoga sessions when you join the work in the ashrama. It's very useful. It is useful. But you must also know the philosophy, the goal behind it. Why should you engage in such works? Is it merely a social service? No. Karma yoga says, Vedantic traditions say, Karma yoga is meant to cleanse the mirror of the mind and the body. As you do works for the sake of others, not for your own self, not for earning money or name or wealth or property. When you do works for the sake of others, then this bondage of works, they say, drop off gradually. You would tell us, I don't see the bondages at all. How can you say that they drop off? Well, so Karma Yoga gives a wonderful analysis. Okay, because this is intrinsic to the monastic tradition that Ramakrishna mission follows, right? Karma Yoga says, well, in the initial days of one's life, without even desiring to do so, he is caught in the web of prohibited actions. He or she cannot control his own personality. He does what is known as Nishiddha karma. Nishiddha is prohibited. Maharaj was telling me there are various social programs here to wean people away from alcoholism, to wean people away from substance use. If you ask that person concerned, probably that person would say, I would have loved to stay away from that. But they don't have the capacity to control themselves, right? So Nishiddha karma is the first step of work that we indulge in. Well, how do you take them away from Nishiddha karma? It says, then instead encourage them to do sa-kama karma. Kama is desire, sa means with. So those works which are done with desires. Suppose I want to earn a living. I want to make money for myself. I want to have a good, decent family for myself. And that must be done truthfully, without cheating others. If you do that for yourself, well, it's good. Why is it good? Because you don't indulge in bad karmas then. You don't indulge in Nishiddha karma. You are then, and as a better step, indulging in doing works for yourself. You have a good property, you have a good family, you have a decent living. This is not bad, the Hindu scriptures say. But what happens is, after engaging in such actions for years, a point comes that the person looks back and feels, well, I have had enough of this. Can't I go beyond? I have done so much for my family. Even then, sometimes there seems to be no gratitude at all. All of you have heard about the Durga Puja, right? Durga Puja, right? So Durga Puja is a festival of the Divine Mother. It starts with the storyline actually. It is so much akin to what we experience. It says that there was once a king. His name was Suratha. So this king was doing his work of governing the kingdom very well. But as with all warrior clans, he started losing the grip over his kingdom. He was gradually being pushed to a corner. Even his own ministers were disobeying him. So heartbroken, under the pretext of deer hunting, he goes to the forest, right? And there, as he wanders around, he feels that, well, I am in the forest. Are my elephants and horses being taken care of properly? Well, I have accumulated so much of wealth. Are they defraying expenses properly? Or are they squandering the money? And moreover, these ministers who were earlier so much devoted to me, had allegiance towards me, are they now having allegiance to the other persons, my rival groups? You can match with your experiences in life, right? So Suratha is concerned. As he moves around in the forest, he understands that although he is alone in the forest, his mind is again and again going back to the affairs of the kingdom. He cannot shake them off. He cannot rid himself away from those impressions. His mind wants to cling back to those thoughts of wealth, of governance, of his possessions. In the meantime, as he looks around in the forest, he sees another person sitting under a tree, somewhat downcast. The king goes up to him and says, "Well, you look to be a wealthy person, right? But why are you sad?" Imagine this Trabuco Monastery in a canyon as you wander around and you see a person below a tree, deeply in thought, somewhat morose. You want to sympathize with him. The king goes up to this merchant and says, "Hello, you look to be a wealthy man. Why are you morose?" This man says, "Look, my name is Samadhi. And I was a wealthy person, right? But it so happened that my wives and my children, they threw me out of my home." The king was surprised. Then this merchant continues. He says, "It is strange that in spite of this, my mind wanders back to those persons only, to my wives and to my children. My mind again and again is thinking, are they well? Are they okay? Isn't it strange? They don't want me. They are happy without me. Even then my mind strays back again and again to them. How can I get rid of this?" So the king doesn't want to say that he himself is in a similar state, right? He doesn't want to divulge that he himself is in a poor state as the merchant is. So they together go up to the head of the monastery there. He is one of the sages. His name is Medha. And they go up to this rishi, that's the sage, Medha, and say about the individual plights. So this rishi asks them to sit quietly and then tells them, "You see, this is the inscrutable Maya which covers men and delude them. They often don't know their real state of affairs. Sometimes we are caught in a web, as it were, of our desires, and these desires give birth to more and more actions, and as a result, more of results as well. So karma phala, work and results. This infinite chain catches them again and again. At one point of time, they feel as it were they are drowning in a quicksand, right? They feel helpless. Then they look up and pray to the Almighty. So I tell you, the Rishi goes on in that storyline, that, well, I'll tell you the story of Divine Mother, that power of a woman that we imagine. If you pray to her, she can get rid of these bondages. So, sakama karma, after doing works with the desires, people at one point of time gets to the state of that suratha or samadhi, when they feel that I have had enough of this world. I need to do nishkama karma. Nishkama is works without desires. I need to do works for the sake of others. Karma yoga, right? You have heard the word karma yoga. So when you do works for others, it becomes karma yoga. I say it's difficult, right? If you earn a living, you expect something in return. Even when the son does work for the father, he expects something in return. But imagine this doctrine telling you that do works without any desire for results, without expecting anything in return. So this requires repeated practice, right? Just as you when you want to memorize a poem, when you do that again and again, after a point of time, you are able to say it by heart. You need not take any special efforts for this. Similarly, when you are used to it, I remember when we came to the monastery initially, we also came to the monastery from today's colleges and schools and universities, right? We also had formal education, as all of you have. We had a number of friends who would frequent the monasteries with us. But it was only a few of us who decided to take the plunge finally, right? So after coming to the monastery, these vacillations come in the mind, right? I used to see some of my close friends working in a decent office, drawing a handsome salary. So our minds would vacillate. Well, you have taken up this monastic life, right? And monks in the Ramakrishna mission, they don't have even their own bank accounts, right? Normally. And they don't expect anything in return. So as you practice this, you understand where it pinches, right? Where the pangs are. Because from our childhood days, we are used to expecting something in return. So when you say, do karma yoga, I would tell sometimes to the listeners, in Bengal, when we speak about karma yoga, even probably here as well, people will say, well, for karma yoga, I can come on Saturdays and Sundays. Well, on other days, I can't do karma yoga. But karma yoga is a philosophy of life, which tells you, surrender all the fruits of work to God, Ishvara. You say, till Friday, I'll earn a living. I want the salary for myself. Only Saturday and Sunday, I'll give the works to the Lord. This doesn't do karma yoga actually. So it requires practice, as I tell you. We naturally expect something in return. As you practice doing it on Saturday and Sunday, gradually you get the taste of it. It gradually spreads over to other days as well. Until finally, we are caught like we are, right? So that it has spread over all the 7 days, all the 12 months in a year. So the monastic tradition in the Ramakrishna mission is not away from the modern day society. It doesn't tell you that go away from the society and do penances, seek your own freedom from the bondages of the world. Instead it says, be in the society, look at the sufferings of others. And then only when you sympathize with them, you will have the inclination to serve others. I'll just read a little bit of Swamiji's letters. These were, I tell you, electrifying letters. Because as I mentioned at the very beginning, this was something which was not prevalent in the Indian religious tradition of the days. But Swamiji, by his own training, he had studied in a Christian college and had known the tradition of serving others. Then he saw Sri Ramakrishna, and who, even in his deathbed, Sri Ramakrishna had cancer towards the end. Even then, he was ever eager to quench the thirst for religion of others. So this evangelical idea, serving others, Swamiji had from these philosophies, especially after going through the length and breadth of India, as he saw the poverty and the lack of proper education. He would say later on, you see, religion is not to be blamed. Our Indian and Hindu traditions, they have given you the highest philosophy. The time has come to do it in practice. Philosophia says, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. Sarvam, all. Khalu is definitely Idam is this, Brahman is God. It says all this is God. It says, but in practice, we are discriminating. We are saying, I am higher, you are lower. It says about castes. It says about colors. It says about gender. So long as you practice discrimination of any kind, you are not in reality practicing Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma, right? So Swamiji decided to turn this philosophy into practice. So look at these lines, okay? I'll read in Bengali. One or two words in Bengali will come up. Excuse me for this. সমাজকে জগৎকে electrify করতে হবে. You need to electrify the society and the world. ঘণ্টা নাড়া গৃহস্থের কর্ম. The work of only ringing the bells that you find during puja is the work of the householder. He says that is for monks like us. You must get up and serve society. This is his clarion call. তোমাদের কাজ distribution and propagation of thought currents. Your work is the distribution and propagation of thought currents. See, this sadhus, this is what they are doing, right? In those days, these came like bombshells because these brother disciples had seen Ramakrishna deeply immersed in sadhana, and many of them had wanted to go along his track and give up their lives to sadhana. But one person supported Vivekananda in all ways. That was Sarada Devi, right? Sarada Devi, ever practical, although being a woman, Ramakrishna had authorized her to carry on the baton of religion after his demise. So after Ramakrishna passed away, as I mentioned the year in 1886, Sarada Devi stayed on as the ever Supreme Court, you could say, right? The highest court, federal court, to give her judgment whenever they were in doubt. What was the practical way? Because when we joined the Ramakrishna order or the Vedanta societies, it is now an established organization, right? All of us, our parents know, you also know, that we have a decent food and shelter, right? If we don't earn the money, at least we can stay comfortably, as any normal citizen does. But in those days, that even was not guaranteed. And now comes Vivekananda to tell them that you need to serve others. So they were flabbergasted, they were confused, they didn't know what to do. But Sarada Devi again and again, as I said, was practical and supported Vivekananda. She said, well, you see, your guru, that is Ramakrishna, has authorized Narendra, that's the earlier name of Vivekananda, to lead you along the spiritual path. It was Ramakrishna's baton that Vivekananda is carrying forward. So what he is doing, he is not doing as his personal interpretation of Ramakrishna's message. What he is doing is only carrying the message forward, broadcasting it forward. Okay? So I go back to a little this way. Sometimes he even scolds his brother disciples. He says, unless you serve others, I will wash my hands off forever. He had the greatest love for his brother disciples, okay? In fact, it is this bondage which has created this Ramakrishna mission. Just see one thing. This association, when it started, it didn't have a great Rockefeller or a Carnegie to give a huge amount of money. It is not that buildings were built and then people came in and started serving, as you do in office, right? It's not that. The organization was formed based on some very egalitarian and broad ideas. So merely ideas can't start service, right? But one thing amazes you, amazes us is, this proves to the world that, well, ideas are more important than money. Money, material, all this must come later on. When a person is deeply charged with an idea which is liberal, which is broad, which is aimed at the welfare of all, money, materials, all this must follow in its trail, right? So, in fact, you must see this to believe. to be inspired. All of us, when we join this monastic tradition, all of us, we have been inspired by this only. That it is not money, not materials. It's the life, the character that is important. So don't feel that they are monastics and we are another class. It's not that. It's not in black and white. A person turns into a monastic when such ideas gradually engulf them, right? So, I'll look at some vows that we normally teach our students. And these are somewhat akin to what the monastics follow. We follow in the order, right? So, this will help you understand what the monastic principles are. That was originally my topic. I gave an outline of the monastic tradition, and these are principles, right? Can you kindly repeat with me? These we help our students repeat. Very practical vows. Nothing to be committed about. Nothing that you are promising, as it were, to follow in your life. These are only joint prayers, you could call them. I'll first read and then you can follow. Shariram adyam, yes, loudly. Shariram adyam khalu dharma sadhanam. Kalu dharma sadhanam. So it says, if you want to have religious practices, very practical vow. It says, adyam, at the very beginning, you must have a good physique for yourself. Shariram adyam. Adi means beginning. Khalu is definitely dharma sadhanam. If you want to meditate properly, you can't have a stomach ache, right? If you have a stomach ache for long, you can't sit for long hours, right? So, the Yoga Shastra says, the Yoga Scripture says, first you must have a body free of diseases. Then only you can have concentration. How can you have concentration when you have a headache, right? You can't have it. So, Shariram, mind is a still finer aspect. Even the Sharira must be properly tuned to indulge in a religious life, to undertake a religious life. This is the first vow. Second one, okay? Number 2. We'll have 5 of them, one after another. Yatinam sadhanam tapah. Yes. Yatinam sadhanam tapah. Acha. Yati means one who has given up the world. Some of you might have heard this prayer, Namah Sri Yati Rajaya. Have you heard this prayer? Namah Sri Yati Rajaya. This is a prayer for Vivekananda actually. Yati means a monk. So it says, Yati Nam, of people who want to be away from this world, sadhanam, penance, some form of austerity, is absolutely necessary. You are required to deny yourself some comforts, right? Even the doctor says so. Suppose you have a diabetes, the doctor tells you, well, don't take too much of sweets, right? But sometimes we are unable to contain ourselves. When we go for this potluck dinner after this lecture, Maharajas would have various items there. Probably you have brought it from your homes. But before going, you tell yourself, I won't take ice creams, I won't take ice creams. But when you go nearby, you are unable to contain yourself, right? You don't want to divulge this weakness to others. But in your mind, you know that you couldn't have a control over your mind, right? So, some form of control of the indriyas, of the organs, is necessary to progress in religious life, okay? Third one is a basic, I tell you. Satyameva jayate nanritam, yes, louder, nanritam. Acha. This is known as positive and negative, right? Suppose a parent tells his child, well, today there is a basketball match on the TV. Yes, Tom, you mustn't look at that match at all, right? You have an exam tomorrow. It's a negative thing. Huh? Don't do that. And the positive thing is, you engage yourself in reading the books today because you have mathematics exam tomorrow. Negative and positive, right? When you want to drive home a message, you use both these paths, negative and positive, right? So this dictum also is using both the negative and the positive statements. Just look at the meaning. Satyam eva jayate. Truth alone conquers. Truth alone conquers. Easy. Satyam is truth. Jayate is wins over. Eva is definitely, only. Truth only conquers. So this is a positive statement. Then you are not satisfied by merely telling, go for your studies. That's not enough. You must also tell him, don't look at the TV. That's also important. So it says, na anritam. Anrita is falsehood. Na is not. So it says, truth only wins, not falsehood. So it's giving a positive statement, then it has a negative one to strengthen the statement, right? So truth alone triumphs, not falsehood. You can say, we could have done with only a positive statement, Swamiji. Why do you require a negative one? The scriptures say, well, it's not easy. You can listen hundreds of times. Even then, when you are in a trying circumstance, you will see yourself compromising with truth, right? Satyam eva jayate. I'll give a short incident in Swami Brahmanandaji's life. Brahmanandaji is a revered sannyasin in this monastery because Swami Prabhavanandaji, who was the first establisher of this monastery, had Brahmanandaji, one of the other monastic brothers of Vivekananda, as his guru, right? So this is an incident with Swami Brahmanandaji. Brahmanandaji at the time was a lad. He hadn't become a monk still. He had come to Dakshineshwar and was staying with his guru Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna had a peculiar ability to understand the thoughts of the minds of his disciples. It's not something out of the world. In a sense, all of us, we do this, right? For a person whom we know very much, whom we love very much, you will see often their thoughts become transparent to the elders, to the teachers, right? So Ramakrishna tells Brahmanandaji, he tells him, well, Rakhal, that was his normal name. Have you committed a sin today? So he scratches his head, right? And said, no, I haven't. I haven't done anything wrong. Then he gravely says, think again. Brahmanji later says, it's there recorded. He says, I used to know that indulging in taking intoxicants, adultery, committing a theft, these were sins. I hadn't done anything. So I again said, no, I don't remember anything. Ramakrishna again comes up and says, did you utter a lie today? Lie. Truth and lie. Okay. Then he again scratches his head and says, today, lie. Well, in jest, I had told a lie to someone. In English, we use the term white lies, right? White lies. Lies which wouldn't pinch anyone, would cause harm to anyone, is a white lie. So he said, yes, in jest I had uttered a lie. Ramakrishna tells him gravely, no, even in jest, try not to utter a lie. You can say that, well, Swamiji, these are difficult things. Why do you tell us these? We live in the world. Can we have such high philosophies? Are these practical? Why is truthfulness in speech being insisted on? It is this, that if you try to insist on saying truthful words, as a first step, suppose a word that is untruth or false, it escapes your lip. give yourself a second chance to correct. You go back to the person and say, well, I had probably wrongly said this. It's not true. This is the correct version of it. You give yourself a second try, right? After a point, you will see even the thought of uttering a false word, you would recoil from that thought. As soon as this thought will come to the mind, another part of the mind will say, no, you can't utter what is false. You had last time corrected yourself. So make it a point. Don't utter falsehood. What this will do is, we tell from our experiences, in course of time, you will force yourself almost to utter only truth, not falsehood. So the scriptures say, well, our body and our mind is interconnected with each other. As you deny the body to do what is false, in course of time, the thought of uttering something false also will gradually leave the body, right? Leave the mind. I'll give you another example, right? These are often white lies that we utter. Suppose Maharaj Ji comes rushing into the room and says, well, have you seen that lady devotee? She was supposed to come here. I probably saw that lady devotee coming in. Okay, I just keep silent. I say neither yes nor a no, right? It's sometimes prudent to keep silent. Often we do that. It's sometimes prudent. We pretend as it were I haven't heard what he has said. This too is a lie, it says. This too is a lie. Because you pretend not to know what the actuality is. So when you want to be rid of falsehood, you must be careful about false thoughts even. Often we try to say, well, I didn't utter a false statement. I didn't tell Maharaj that, well, I haven't seen that lady. I didn't do that. But I pretended that I didn't know that devotee had come in. So that also, in a sense, is a falsehood. Could you get the point? So as you enact more and more only truth, that it says, our scriptures say, then truth will come and protect you. You will see that whatever is true gradually will come to pass. So this has happened in the lives of our saints. Saints are not there high in the heavens. We only can become saints by acting truthfully. So the fourth one. Swartho yasya parartha. Yes. Swartho yasya parartha eva sa puman ekah satam agrani ekah satam agrani. It tells you about actually unselfishness. It's somewhat closer to the statement in the Bible. It says, Swartho yasya parartha. What you want for yourself, think of others enjoying the same thing. Swa artha is for your own sake. Swa. Para artha, for the sake of others. That is what a person agrani, advanced in religious life, agrani, is characterized by. So a person who is somewhat ahead in religious life is characterized by unselfishness. He doesn't merely think about himself. We discussed Karma Yoga earlier. So Karma Yoga means you give the best fruits of your work for others. If there is less food on your table, your mind would debate. It would say, I would give the best cakes to others. Would I have something remaining for myself? The mind would vacillate, okay? Then you again tame your mind and say, give it. The more you give, in the course of time, you will have strength of character, the strength of being unselfish. This is the fourth principle. Fifth one, okay? Fifth one tells you about having an organization. Good persons coming together. So this is exceedingly important. Suparichalita, Suparichalita, Sangha Shakti Eva, Sangha Shakti Reva, Samaja Kalyana Nidanam, Samaja Kalyana Nidanam. Look at the meaning. Suparichalita, well administered. This Trabuco monastery is well administered, we say, right? So an event, unless it's well organized, many people come together, our aims, they can collide with each other, right? So society which is well governed, everyone adjusts his priorities or her priorities with others. That is suparichalita. Parichalita is administered. Su is good, right? Suparichalita. Sanghati Shakti. Sanghati is the power to coalesce properly, come together properly. Sanghati Shakti Reva. Samaja Kalyana Nidanam. Samaja is society. Kalyana is goodness. Nidanam is refuge. So, if you have the power to come together and think about the welfare of the others, then only the society can progress, right? You can have great philosophy. Swami Vivekananda used to say, you see, in India, the Vedanta has uttered the biggest philosophies. It has declared that all men and women are essentially God. Then he says under the breath, you see, in spite of this, we had trodden on the necks of the poor and the despised. The caste differences had led to weakening of the country and society. So when you think of the society as a whole, when you think of the others, then you need to come together for a common good cause. This can lead to an organization having a longer life, carrying on the message for a longer duration. So we are standing on the 75th year of this monastery, right? So a monastery going this far, 75 years, started by some intellectuals like Gerald Hurd, Aldous Huxley, Christopher Isherwood, and then later on this Trabuco college was given to the Vedanta Society. After the Vedanta Society takes it up, it carries ahead this monastery with the idea that it must bring goodwill to others. It must be for the common good. So it is not a mere intellectual college that it remained. It remained a place of practice where you try to lead a good life, right? So just to summarize our discussions, we had 5 resolves. In Sanskrit, these are known as sankalpa. These sankalpas, very easy ones, tells you first that you ought to have a good health. Second one, it told you that you ought to have some restrictions on yourself. Third one told you that you ought to tread the path of truth. Fourth one tells you that you must be unselfish. And fifth one, that you must think of a common society. Think of the common goodwill. Then only society can advance. And before that, we also discussed the traditions of the Ramakrishna order, where Karma Yoga was stressed instead of individual liberation, and how Swami Vivekananda established in a new way the tradition that Sri Ramakrishna, by his intense sadhana, has passed over to us. How he had made that practical. How the message of Ramakrishna uttered in India has crossed the shores of that country to come that far, this far, right? And be relevant for this country, this place, this society as well. So Maharaji has said that we can have some interaction later on in a small drawing room. So we are definitely welcome to have it with us. So we end this session with a Shanti mantra, probably which all of you would be knowing, so you can chant with me. You need not repeat. I think all of you know that. Purnamada, Purnamidam, you know that, right? Yes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. I'll give a free translation. You need not repeat with me. It says that when you have something purna, which is full, from that if you take, say, a cup or a spoonful and put it to another entity which is purna, nothing is wasted. Purnasya purnam adaya. Taking something from this, putting it to another vessel, doesn't lessen it in any way. So we are essentially that purna. And this is for this realization that we undertake this journey in religious life. If we have such goals in life, all of us who come to this monastery and all of us we have been full-timers, our life would be for a higher cause. We can have a higher goal in life and feel blessed in life. Thank you all. Thank you, the Swamiji.